Hello and welcome to the first half of episode 1 of the book club on the Articles of Secession. So this is chapter 1 of the Badab Wars, and you can catch the full episode as well as episode 2 uninterrupted on Crescent Edge Creative. Now, we've not done this to annoy anyone, it's merely just to get everyone over to the actual home of these podcasts, which will be on Crescent Edge Creative. Now, we're going to go into the first half now with me, Alex, and Miles, and I'll catch you all for the episode. So, welcome to... We're going to be going over the first part of our Articles of Secession, which is our book club segment, in which I'm joined by Miles from Little Legend Studio, and Alex from Crescent Edge Creative. And we're essentially going to be, Miles is going to be restraining me and Alex from an argument, because I know we're on opposite sides of this, in which we're going to introduce the Badab Wars to everyone that's not caught up on it in the last 13 years, as we read it ourselves for the first time in a long time. So if you guys want to check out the hobby segment of that, you can head over to Little Legend Studio, which will be linked below. Oh, there we go. The lovely display of the model. You can't resist those transitions, can he? Yeah. And we will get into the book discussion now. You son of a bitch.
I couldn't help myself. Yeah, the strong are the strongest alone. Yes, and there's a common theme. There's a theme that runs through this. Yeah, the Badab War. I'm all about.
So, does anyone?
I got to use this English degree somewhere. I paid a lot of money for a piece of paper that says I'm smart, and I could barely spell. Right, okay, so the Badab War. What the hell is this? I think right before we begin anything, it's worth reading the introduction on this thing, because it's written by Alan Bligh, and anything written by Alan Bligh, it's just like words from the old from like Jesus, right? You cling on to them, you try and extract as much meaning, you argue over the meaning as time goes by. I didn't know this at the time, but the Badab War was really set up as a testing ground for the Horus Heresy. And rereading this with that context, you can see a lot of the ideas starting to germinate here, or being seeded here, that will later go on to flower in the Horus Heresy later on. So he talks about, for me personally, this has been a fantastic project to work on. Space Marines in all their myriad forms have always been the foundation of my connection to 40k. I think that mirrors a lot of people's experiences with 40k. My first entry into this was seeing that Blood Angel on the front of like the second edition box set, like that huge guy with the huge fist like slamming down an orc. Awesome. I think there was a thought at the time, how could you make the Space Marines as varied and multifaceted? How can you make them different enough to justify an entire book series based around the Horus Heresy? And he laid the foundations for it here, right here in this book.
If you're interested, it's page 1 of Imperial Armor Volume 9. Part 1. It's page 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it might be worth saying at the outset of this is, one, we'll be doing this incrementally, not just the introduction, but all of the chapters. So if you guys want to follow along at home, we will be reading the next chapter and following it like with another episode, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Does anyone want to give us a quick synopsis of the chapter? And then we'll debate the finer points or go through our highlights.
Yeah. I feel like I can swing the bat. I feel like I can hit the fences, maybe even with a quick synopsis.
And then we'll tell you you're wrong.
The Imperium's so like tied up in its own greed and nonsense that it's like, oh man, we keep losing like huge amounts of resources out on this fringe by this stupid hole in the galaxy. I guess we should maybe do something about it. So, the Mantis Warriors were nearby and they were doing okay, but they're like, we can't have them in charge. So, let's send the Astro Claws because, I don't know, they seem chill, and they send them over. And first thing the chapter master does is get himself turned into, a splat on the bottom of an orc boot. So they give it to the youngest guy to ever hold the chapter master title. Chapter Master Huron. I'm not even going to attempt to say his very German-sounding name because I feel like I'm going to butcher it. And they go, "Cool, man. Yeah, just do whatever, everything you need to do, but just make sure you send our stuff back. That's what matters." At which point he tries to do his job. They get in the way. They tell him to get bent every time he asks for help. And they're like, "What the hell, man? I thought you were supposed to be good. What do you need stuff from us for?" And so he gets PO'd and says, "F this, I'm seceding."
That's a very succinct synopsis. Sure.
You've made into spoilers on chapter 2 with the details them to get bent. But
the guy starts calling himself the Tyrant. I feel like he gives his own spoilers.
No, I think the Tyrant label is more in the terms of like Greek tyrant, which isn't definitely sort of like an evil ruler. It also has the side to it. They just like an autocrat.
Yeah, and it's funny you should say that because up in the Discord group we were part of, Wilf's posted up a work in progress picture of I think a chapter champion of the Astral Claws, and he has very Persian-like imagery on him. You could kind of see Paul Dayton's work of that huge dreadnought that's painted. That's Alex. Pull up the poster.
Oh yeah, give me a second. Here it is.
So on the banner is sort of like a sphinx on there, or some kind of like Persian winged cat.
Ancient Clytor.
Yeah, so you do get the impression of, especially like when Roman legates go and rule a province, that they almost become acclimatized and they almost turn native. And you get this feeling with Huron that he's been sent out from the Imperium into this very volatile zone. And some of the imagery, it isn't Roman Greco, which we are more used to with the legions. I mean, with the chapters. Sorry, I'm going to make that mistake over and over again. But yeah, you see more Persian influences in there. I think right from the very outset, should we define what the Maelstrom is?
Yes. So the Maelstrom is the second largest, storm-ridden area in the galaxy behind the Eye of Terror, right? And we, like the Maelstrom Warders, are in charge of I had to get this in, the Maelstrom Adjacent Autonomous Imperial Resource Extraction Zone, grid 0004 to 357. So we're very much focused, like the Badab War and all of the things that we're going to talk about in chapter 1 very much focuses on that very long name, but which will shorten it to the Maelstrom Zone.
Yeah, more commonly known as the Maelstrom Zone.
Yeah, and he's got very much vibes of the Maelstrom Zone. If you ever, like, as we mentioned, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History in the last thing, I was listening to the Wrath of the Khans and things like that. He's got this very much vibe of the steppe where you get, or even like the Germanic frontiers for the Romans, where you get these things just appearing as if from nowhere, and the frontier towns are very much like cut off and prone to getting surrounded, and then just chaos descends on entire regions from like these, in history, like nation states just appearing on the horizon. It's like, God, where did they come from? And it's the same with the orcs that kill the Astral Claws leader before Luft Huron. And God, what is his name? What is his name?
I think it starts with an R. Rovik Blake.
If it's not that, we're going with that. No,
it is. After a series of heavy orc raids originating within the Maelstrom struck deep into the Badab sector, the chapter master of the Astral Claws, Rovik Blake, went against his own doctrine, pursuing the orcs back into the Maelstrom itself with the chapter's battle barge, Seraph of Judgment, at the head of a large strike force. And then he got stomped. So Vorg Manburna killed him in single combat. Like a bitch.
So do you think there could, like, as you mentioned, like Persian, like looks to the chapters that are in this area? There's almost like even a Byzantine feel almost to
very much. So
like
this
how
isn't
the Roman emperors later on like breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, if you can compare them, like cross comparisons to historical epochs, the Great Crusade and the Heresy are very much set in the early Roman Empire / Republic. But then after the Scouring in this later age of the Imperium, a lot of overlapping conflicts in terms of like politicking, realpolitik. Yeah, these chapters almost act as independent, like satraps or independent, like legates, ruling. He ends up ruling over this area, but as independent strike forces. Definitely Byzantine in nature. And the Maelstrom. Why would anyone rock up in this piece of shit? Why would anyone want to? Why would the Imperial want a foothold? Yeah. Well, because it's such a chaotic area, because it's such a unique area in space and time overlapping, it produces quite a lot of rare minerals that you can't find anywhere else. So there are a lot of merchant ships in there. There's a lot of rogue traders operating. Mechanicum. Is it Mechanicum or Mechanicus? Adeptus
Mechanicus.
Mechanicus at this point,
Yeah. Even by the time they get to the siege, the loyalist Mechanicum elements have become the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Yeah.
That happens during the binary secession, shortly after they get to Terra.
So this area is incredibly mineral rich, and it is a very, very important chain in the Imperial link. So the Imperium does need a very strong foothold here. And like you say, after a series of disasters that befall this area, they coming in was the Purge. They turn up and they nuke. Should we? We're getting into that now.
So he's the. So he's the Syphantax. It's like the Siganax, like Secession, where they're taken over by the Reborn, which are a Chaos Space Marine warband.
Yeah.
So it results in this civil war where the Mantis warriors get involved in essentially like counterinsurgency operations. Yeah. That's how it's termed in the book. That results in the world getting nuked.
Yeah.
As the cultists discover all the nukes. And this world is actually one of 3 major frontier worlds. So when that happens, the collapse of that one world actually results in the entire collapse of the northern sector or subsector within the Imperial Resource Extraction Zone grid 004 to 357. So I've got to get it in, Miles. I just love it. I love it. That name combines all the elements, my favourite bits of the few bits of Star Wars Episode 1 that I absolutely love, the needless trade delegation bit.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about how that actually sets up like these frontier worlds are bastions of Imperial authority? And maybe we've already covered it enough, but was there anything that, like, they're coming out into 40k from 30k? We've got the renegades popping up in the Maelstrom zone. We've got like counterinsurgency. What the hell goes on there in an Imperial context? Because in my mind, that is just like nuke the planet. Like that could have just been in the Imperial forces plan.
Yeah. Well, I think it's. Go ahead, Miles.
No, I think it could have been. I don't think the Imperium would have necessarily nuked such an important asset to them unless it was completely lost. What was the Space Marine, the Chaos Space Marines, the Purge?
Reborn.
The Reborn, yeah. They have a rather nasty backstory, and they all live to just destroy and kill as much as possible. So them turn up on the planet, they don't care about securing assets, they don't care about the military value, they just want to end as many lives as quickly as possible. And with this whole region so volatile as it is, that it talks about it in this, that one piece can set off a chain reaction in the supply chain that goes all the way back to Terra. So they really do need to secure this section. They do need to secure the Maelstrom as part of that very delicate supply chain that connects the Imperium at this point.
Yeah, so, that was going to be my answer too.
So that actually, like the importance of that section of the story, that collapse of this one of the 3 frontier worlds, directly leads to the formation of the Maelstrom Warders. And it takes the Imperium a very fast 10 years to do this. So that was the first half of the episode. As I said before, if you want to watch the full episode, and as well as the second episode, uninterrupted, head over to Crescent Edge Creative, and we'll see you over there for the final part of the first chapter.